right, and welcome back to another episode of the Draw for Turn podcast with your hosts, Austin and Dalton, where we are going to be getting on into this. This is going to be a hopefully less scuffed version of our first episode. Thank you guys for coming on in, joining us along on this journey as we are having fun talking about just, something that we love, Pokemon trading card game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of ideas of where we kind of want to take not only just the podcast, but also kind of just like the YouTube channel as well as with the brand, which I think we'll hit on probably just a little bit today. But before we go into that, I think the number one place we should start with is where we picked up from like our last podcast with EUIC, as we were going into it with a little bit of predictions. Now there are some final results that really are coming up through that, and so it is going to be really fun to talk a little bit about just what placed in first place. If nobody actually checked it out, it is my favorite card, the one that came out, Alolan Vulpix V. It was in the deck, so I wouldn't call it an Alolan Vulpix V deck, but it was in the deck. What are your thoughts?
It was present. I saw that and I was very excited. I love all the lists are out now, so I like going back through and looking at these lists. That it's like Arctura is fun. I enjoy Arctura. And the fact that Vulpix was in that list, it's like, was it the main thing? No, there was a 1-1 line, but that's all that was needed was that 1-1 line, and Vulpix showed up in a deck in a real way. So that is very exciting. I don't know. I like all of the lists that came out of this. That it's like I just like this new format so much.
Mm-hmm.
I was so tired of Silver Tempest, and there was not a list that I saw played that I did not like. That at least in the top 8, it's like there was 2 Lugias in the top 8, and they were both Lugia doing Lugia things. But I like Single Strike Lugia. I'm intrigued by it. I think it's fun. Lost Box is Lost Box, so it's fine. But it's like I didn't hate any of these. I've hated some of the Silver Tempest stuff. I enjoyed all of these decks, and I was very happy they all made it.
Yeah, and this was also like one of the first tournaments in a while where, I mean, Lugia Archeops, it was still like 27% on the just statistics for day 2, but I mean, it was 36% over on the last regional over in Fort Wayne, and it's so nice to see that it was at a lower number. Nobody wanted to deal with that. Nobody wanted to see that. Nobody wanted more Lugia. And, Lugia, still a strong card. Very broken ability. Archeops getting those into play. Just shoving a whole bunch of energy onto something. Swinging with that. And it's really nice to see that, we only had 2 in the top 8. There was only, 25% that were in the top, just, the day 2 in the top list of players in general. So it is nice to see a lot of just change coming through from a lot of different things. Like I said already, Vulpix taking the win. Finally, actually, well, that's not even true. Vulpix did take the win in a regional back in the, it was like the Frostmoth Articuno Freeze box when it first came out. I think it was at another European. I think it was Brisbane, maybe, I don't remember, but it was at another regional over in Europe. So the people, the Europeans, they've got it on lock for the Vulpix. They know what's up.
Vulpix has got to be there.
Exactly, and so excited and pumped about that. And then also in the second place is another one of the decks that I was really pumped about to see. It was the Gardevoir deck. So, what are your thoughts on the Gardevoir deck that was coming through? Were you expecting Gardevoir to finish that well?
I was expecting Gardevoir to show up. I expected it in the top 8, and this is the version I expected to do well. It's like there's a lot of people playing the Mewtwo version of it, and I think that the Zacian version is just better. I think it's more consistent. I think the Mewtwo it's fun. I like the Union decks. I think it's interesting. But I think Mewtwo is just a little bit too much control for what Gardevoir wants to do. And so I get why it works. I see the synergy there. But just let's charge up and then run with it seems much more what Gardevoir should be. And that's why I think that this one got in the top 8 and got second. It's like I expected at least 1, and I was happy to see it there. I think that people were discounting Gardevoir more as we were going into it. I don't know if that was people discounting it because everyone actually knew it was good and they wanted everyone else to forget that it was good, or if people were just like, nah, this card's gonna be trash. But it's not. It did well.
Oh yeah, and my main hang up with the Gardevoir Mewtwo version is that it feels like you're basically taking Gardevoir, which already is kind of like very it's slower to actually get up and running, and it needs a lot of cards to actually work and function. You're taking out 5 consistency pieces to put one Pokemon in there. So you've got the Mewtwo V Union, and you also have to put in a Peonia, because if you don't have the Peonia, you're just done. You're just like, there's no coming back from that. So to me, I'm always surprised when it's doing well, because to reliably have a 5-card combo every single game, every single time that you can get up, and to not only that, but like if you have to go find it, then you have to go find the Peonia, use the Peonia, hit the right cards off of Peonia, or you're just playing a 55 card Gardevoir deck. And so like, why, like, it to me, I've seen why it's good. I've seen why it works. It's because it does have a much better Lost Box matchup, because Lost Box does destroy like the actual Gardevoir deck. But it doesn't seem worth it to me. It's also it's cool. It's a cool idea, but it's never seemed worth it whenever I've put it into testing or put it into like any kinds of just like ideas around it. But
I like the V Unions because like I had the Pikachu V Union. I just picked up the new Marnie box. I've got now 2 versions of that Morpeko V Union. I've got the old one and the new one. But it's like, I think V Union is so much fun because it is so powerful, but it is so slow, and you have to like intentionally go for it. And they're like, I like that strategy. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. I think it's different. And so Gardevoir running that, I want to say it's good, and I understand, and I like having to build for that 5 card, and I like knowing that I'm not going to hit it every game, and that kind of thing. But just, I don't know, Zacian is just better in this deck. It's just better.
Well, I think also, like, if you're talking about those, like the Pikachu V Union, Greninja V Union, which has not seen any play, Pikachu V Union, Greninja V Union, Zacian, Morpeko, right? Is that another? That's the other one.
Morpeko's got one, yeah.
And then I think it's those 4 in not Gardevoir, in Mewtwo, right? Am I missing one?
Yeah.
But
nope, that's all of them.
But like, regardless of all of them, like the strategy behind using your like Arceus Pika Union one is that like it is Pika Union focused. Like the whole purpose of the deck, it's like you're not really there to attack with Arceus, you're there to use Arceus to help to accelerate the injury so you can attack with Pika Union and then item lock your opponent. Is kind of like the whole main idea and structure of how it works. With this one, it's like you're playing Gardevoir until you're not, and it's like it's like a 5-card tech, but then it's also just like a 5-card holding back. So it's like some strategies you want to do that, some you don't. So I don't know. Yeah. It's just it's a neat trick. It's cool, and obviously, like, I mean, besides Tord, I think that the next just basic Gardevoir was like after 2 or 3 other like Gardevoir Mewtwo's. So obviously they're doing something right, but I mean, even still, it's just I was not surprised to see Gardevoir in the top. Surprised to see Alolan Vulpix. We gotta say, I was a hater, even though I do love that card, but I was surprised it got up there. Some other things that got up there. The Goodra, not surprised about the Goodra. And then the one that I was very surprised about, actually there's 2 decks up there in like the top 16 that I'm really excited about to talk, is, well, obviously Vulpix already, but there's the Miraidon, and then there's also the, like the Rapid Strike kind of box deck with the Inteleon VMAX and the Urshifus. And so, like, out of just all of the decks, Miraidon, everybody's been like, yeah, Miraidon's fine. But then this guy, he comes in, he's like, nope, Miraidon is top 8. Let me show you. So what are the thoughts from that?
See, I think that I still am in the camp that Miraidon's fine. I think that Miraidon is going to be really good. I just don't think Lucky's the partner. And so it's like, he did really well here. And I'm saying that after Kimbrum got top 8 using Miraidon Lucky. Yep. But I don't think that Lucky's the right partner for it. I think that it works fairly well. It does what it needs to do, and Miraidon being able to tandem unit for another Miraidon to tandem unit and have a full bench turn 1, absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. And then the new generator and everything, but it's like it has all of the pieces it needs. It's just Lucky is a 3 prizer that doesn't hit quite as hard as it needs to, and Miraidon's not doing exactly what it needs to do. It's just, I like it. I think that we're going to see a lot more of it as we go. I just don't think that. I think this is the expectation for right now.
Yeah, And we'll go into, I know you said it's not the right partner. I want to do another, like, dive into a whole another topic about some different ideas and different texts and different what ifs kind of thing. We'll do that kind of like later and after. But and going from kind of like Miraidon, I do agree. I think that there are a lot better partners. I've been testing out a lot of different partners because I pulled the gold Miraidon and I was like, well, this is a sign. I guess I'm building this thing. So
Exactly.
gotta see where that goes. And then also, but going over to the another deck that I was really excited about because I love like the long drawn out turns, like make the ideas actually like finally finish off, pull off like the last sweep of cards. I love this Inteleon Urshifu deck, and what like of this that's going on here. Have you played against this? Have you seen this on the ladder? Like what has been your experience with these Inteleons?
I have seen this deck. I've come across it on the ladder quite a few times now. I'm sure I'm coming across it more because it just did this and showed up in top 16. But I like it. I like the rapid strike decks. I like the single strike decks. I thought they were a lot of fun. I thought that gimmick was really cool when they introduced it in battle styles. And then it fell off and died hard because of Mew. And I think that now that there's grounds for it to come back and the stuff that this deck specifically can do, that it's like it's an effective spread deck. And this one ran the Drapion V-Star, which is just so much fun because I love the poison. And so I like the idea of these decks a lot. I've seen them quite a few times, and it's making me have to pull back out and find a spot for Manaphy in all of my decks. And it's like I was so tired of having to give up a bench space for Manaphy, and then it's like I didn't have to, and now on the ladder at least I have to, and I'll put it in. I won't run into any of them. I'll take it back out. I'll run into like 5 of them, and that's just the way it goes. But
So
I
what
like
is
these. I think that it's fun.
so what is like what's the appeal to Drapion V Star? Why is it like why would you think that it was running there? Like why would he toss that in there?
Drapion V Star is. I love poison decks, and I want poison to be good. Toxicroak EX is okay for it. But Drapion V Star is such a fun way to do poison because you only get one shot. And so it's like it's the smart time of when you want to do it. You're setting up, you're getting damage down, you're forcing the retreat that Urshifu can then come out and clean up the next turn. So it's like you are setting up their attacker who has to come down to the bench or they just die. And so you get the next turn guaranteed at least 2, maybe 4 prizes. Then if they don't retreat, you're taking those prizes, but they just lost their primary attacker. It's like Drapion forces the hand in a spread deck, which is so much fun because spread is all about I have board state and I'm slowly getting you to the point where you can't do anything, and then all of a sudden you hit the Drapion and it's like I have board state and now I'm quickly getting you to the point where you can't do anything. If you don't handle this right now, I just win, which is just that's really cool.
Yep. And also it's just like I also didn't realize that it paralyzed it paralyzed the Pokemon as well as poisoning it. And so even looking back on it now, I was like, oh, they get poisoned and they do 3 damage counts. I'm like, that's not really like that good, but I guess that's fine. But like thinking about it now is like the paralysis also, like he said, it's like, all right, paralyzed. Now you have to have a switch out option to actually use your Pokemon and kind of have a turn. And especially without there being Scoop Up Net, unless if you're playing against like a Lost Box matchup, which has, you know, like 50 cards that are dedicated to switching out their Pokemon, then like, and also like at that point, they might only have like a retreat option. So you could essentially lock them there for a turn with the Drapion, which gives you a turn to be able to like pivot, ping on more damage numbers, move different things around, and actually move on and work out from there. So I was like, I saw that as it came in. I was like, what? Why in the world would anybody even put this card in here? And the more I thought about it, the more I like saw. I was like, this is actually like, I was like, this is the sauce. This is the tech.
Like it's so smart because it's one card. You're already gonna run 1, maybe 2 Drapions for the Mew. So it's like it's already set up in there. They're not gonna see it coming. You're gonna drop it. They're gonna be like, crap, I can't do anything with that. And it does it from the bench.
It's true.
Because it's an ability.
That's true. All right. As we are we've talked a lot about a bunch of different decks. There's also a control box deck that is like focused mostly around Penny and kind of like using these like big V Pokemon that either take less damage, help to mill the other person's deck, or just take no damage at all. And this is, it's Sanders deck. He's playing control, always 100%. And honestly, this is like, this kind of goes into like a question that I was going to ask of you of like, what is the like, what do you think was the most undervalued card, or like just like passed over card going into this tournament? Because I've got an answer for it, and it's not Alolan Vulpix, unfortunately, but like the whole key to this deck to me was Penny. Like, I saw Penny, I knew Penny was gonna be good because it's scoop up net for basics, and it's Acerola, but I think that, do you still discard? I'm pretty sure. So let me see. Nope, it is Acerola for basics. It's Acerola for basics. And so like, and I knew going into that I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a decent good card. But like looking more and more and more, I was like, you've got a control matchup for those. Like a lot of Gardevoir were playing the Penny card, and so like I wanted to ask you, because I've already stolen my answer of Penny, but like what was the card that you least expected to kind of be in a lot of these things, but also was like the most underrated but like overperforming card?
I don't know. I think that I expected a lot of the stuff we got. I think that we have like the new staples, we have the new things. We've had the whole, at least online, the debate between Great Ball and Capturing Aroma, and it's like I do think Capturing Aroma is just better. I think that, I mean, there's a spot in the space for Great Ball, but Capturing Aroma is just better. I don't think it's so much as something that I saw that is the new thing. I think it's something that I saw that I think we really need, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's coming soon, and that's a Pokecom. I think that we're going to get a Pokecom reprint soon, because I think that we've got so much stuff that is, like, Battle VIP has become extremely important, and that's run in almost every deck now, which is insane, because that is, people are running 3/4 ofs, and it's dead card after turn 1. And so it's like, but you have to, because it's that Nest Ball and Ultra Ball. That's what you got. And so you've got these things, and I think that what we're going to move towards is we're going to have the Nest Ball to flood the bench. We have the Ultra Ball to dig stuff. I think that what we really need is Pokecom. I don't think we need another true search. I think we need a true trade. And that is my, it's a cheating answer, because it's not one that I saw that I was surprised by, but it's a hole that I saw that I think that, especially the speed that they're moving standard towards, I think that's going to be something that's coming.
Yeah. Now, I would love to see a Pokemon reprint. I think that it just opens the door to so many different like ideas and plays, and also like, to me it helps with like consistency. It would make Lugia even more awful, but to play against. But the other cool thing that I was thinking about on top of that is that like you can even still really utilize the Mew from Celebrations, where you're able to now, like, it's just another item card that you can search out with. It's an item card that you can get from Arven. Like, maybe you have a Pokemon that you don't necessarily want to get rid of, but you want to trade it out for something else. You can use Arven, you can get the Pokecom, and then you can also get the tool card that you're going to be using as well. So it is definitely like a big need. I would love to see it reprinted. I think that it probably won't get reprinted for a little bit, because I think that with Nest Ball coming back, they want to try to feel that out and see how that kind of balances things out. But I do agree with you.
I think that they're going to try to balance Nest Ball a little bit, but I mean, Level Ball was only like the card for 2 sets.
That's true.
And so I think that we don't get it. We're not going to get it with Paldea Evolved. I don't think we get it with the Golden Eggos set. I think we'll get the set after.
Oh, the Golden Eggos.
I think that we'll get it that set after. I think that we're going to get whatever, when Japan's got like the Black Flame, Dark Flame, like our version of that set, I think that's when we get it.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Put it here. Put your predictions. We'll see. Is it gonna be Pokecom? Is it gonna be a new item card that comes in with some Pokemon search, or maybe just a reprint of a different? We're gonna have Quick Ball back again. they killed Quick Ball. You think the Timer Ball? You mean the dead card?
Dead card in hand.
Dead card in the hand. Run 4 Timer Ball. No, it's that, or it's gonna be Battle Compressor. Battle Compressor the Pokemon away. Clara them back. Whoo! Here it comes.
So what needs to happen is we need whatever Lugia is, F block, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need, when F rotates, then Battle Compressor comes back. So you get all the Lugia Dryhards like, this card is so dumb. Why didn't they give it to us? because they waited, because this is so dumb.
because it would be so dumb. Oh, I mean, they've already got Professor Burnett. Imagine you, Professor Burnett, and then you also have that card back. Oh, so broken. That's why GLC is always fun. Being able to play all of the broken like item and supporters and all the other just dumb stuff with some of like the fun, just random
Exactly.
silly cards that don't ever actually get to see play, but actually have a place in a lot of the GLC different versions of stuff. But yeah, well, that was most of what I wanted to talk about with EUIC. There was also the London Cup, which was right after EUIC, or I think going on during like the second day.
It was during day 2. Yeah.
During the second day for people who didn't necessarily make a day 2. So, and a lot of the similar stuff that kind of came out from that as well. But I mean, was there anything else that you wanted to hit on for either of those tournaments before we kind of move on to the next portion?
Honestly, just I'm happy with the way that things are going. That it's
Same.
like Lost Box made a lot of appearances, Lugia made a lot of appearances, and it's like, but they're not as consistent as they were, and I just like that because it's just more fun. I don't want turn 3. I've seen the bottom of my deck twice. I know what I'm doing, and I've got complete control. I hope you had fun watching me play, and it's like that's not the thing anymore, which is enjoyable.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like the main thing that I hated with Lost Box, with Lost Gudra, with Lost Giratina, and I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite saying this, but like I hated the fact of whenever I would play one of those decks, I felt like I had to win game 1 or it was gonna be a tie or a loss, because going into those games they need so much time to actually play out, so much time to play through. And if you don't win game 1, then you're essentially playing for loss or tie, because they're going to take up 45 minutes regardless to dig through their entire deck. They're going to take up 30 minutes on their first turn, and so it is so nice to see that there's less of that. Gardevoir still kind of feels like that a little bit, but it is a little bit more intermittent, where once you actually kind of get the start strategy going. Yeah.
Because it's like Gardevoir does do that, but there's only so many things you can do per turn. Whereas Lost Box and these other, it feels like you could do everything per turn. Gardevoir, you hit your wall faster, and you have a higher wall than most other decks do, but you hit it faster than these other ones hit.
Yeah. No, that's true. And so there's lots of just different things, lots of stuff that's coming out, and I'm just happy to see something that's different, something that's changing. And then hopefully coming up on the next regionals that are coming up soon, it will not just be repeat decks all are a top 8 that is 7 Lugias and 1 other. It's really mostly what I'm trying to avoid and trying to look for as we're moving forward. But EUIC, it looked awesome. It looked great. I was super excited to see just those decks going into it of what is actually successful, what's coming out, what are people building, what is like I said, that's why I wanted to give a big shout out to the card Penny, because that was on my radar at one point, hadn't actually built anything, tested anything, looked at anything with it, but I was like, this card's gonna be broken. And needless to say, secret OP broken card that people didn't necessarily always have in their cards and in their decks. And so, but all in all, pretty awesome and pretty cool. And so moving away kind of from EUIC, I want to go into something that I wanted to talk about with you, kind of more of a game and vision, kind of for what I want to do with our channel eventually, is I want for us to have a section, or have a section, or have some videos, or have a grouping of them that are called Let's Build a Deck. And so this probably won't happen here because neither of us are prepared for it, because I didn't warn Dalton about any of this beforehand. But I want us to have a series of different things called Let's Build a Deck, and for us to bring something that's not necessarily the most useless card in the entire world, but to bring something that is a little bit more just kind of on the fringe of okay, this is a card that came out that has not seen a lot of play, i.e. Arcanine EX, Gyarados EX, Spidops EX, all cards that have kind of come out, all cards that have just kind of they're fine. They're not great. They're fine. And so, but eventually I want to get to the point of let's talk about what are the strengths of these decks, what are the weaknesses of these decks, and like how do we build them, what do they need, what to be on the radar for, and like that's kind of like the idea of what I want to move towards of eventually like for a future upcoming episode, be able to expect us to bring a card to the table of let's talk, let's build a deck.
Let's build a deck around this.
So then you guys, you can go home, you can test it out, you can really see what it looks like, see how it kind of operates, and then eventually once we start to get our YouTube channel up a little bit more running, that is hopefully going to be a series that I would love to be able to help to get started, get going, especially right now on PTCGL, and then once we actually start to get more of our like, you know, cards and content and everything else prepared to move kind of like that towards it. But if there was like a card off of your mind, what is something that that is currently out? Let's not think too far ahead because we've been cooking for like Paldea Evolved when all that stuff comes out. What is a card that you're like, I want to build a deck around this?
All right, so I've got two.
Okay.
One, you already know. We made the puns last time. I've since built a deck around it. You've seen it, and it's
our champ.
It's very solid. He's not my champ. He's not your champ, but he's our champ.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I've got the deck right here, and it is solid. It works. I think that there's a lot of promise in it. I know that he's in here somewhere. There he is. It's like the Machamp VMAX is gonna be good. This is gonna be insane. This is about to be the sauce. So this is one, but it's like, I have the deck. It's done. It's complete. The other one that I have, I think, fits more what you're looking for. It's sleeved because I've tried. I've tried so many times. It's a two-fold. It's not a one-fold. It's a two-fold. Let me find the other one in here. I know he's in here. Or he wasn't here. No, he's not. I took him out. The Glaceons.
Mm-hmm.
There is promise. There's promise behind Glaceon V-Star and Glaceon VMAX. I have tried everything to make these work. The best I was able to do was during Sword and Shield. They were solidly okay for like a set with the Inteleon engine. But then once VMAX died, Glaceon died.
Yep.
And so the V-Star is not bad. I mean, the V-Star doing that 180 and stopping retreat, especially in a format where people just don't switch anymore, that's solid. That's good. It has the 220, which just punishes, and it's like, they're punishes and walls. So it's like, 220, you can't hit me back. 180, you're stuck. Like, there is something there. I can't make it work. I've tried since it came out, but I can't, I don't know what it is.
Yep. And so that'd be a great one to be able to start off. We'll start something off with that probably in the next episode, just because since like I said, neither of us were prepared kind of like coming into this. This was more of just like a thought that I had on the way to the podcast, which is really kind of how, you know, my brain works, as you guys will kind of see and follow along. But I mean, it's like you've got the Glaceon V-Star. You already know I've been like really hype on this card for the longest time, so I'm going to give away kind of like a little bit of my sauce, but I am trying to make the Zeraora V-Star. Let me see if it can actually come into focus. Yeah, Zeraora V-Star work. So I've got that sleeved up right now currently with my Miraidon, because, you know, trying to accelerate a lot of those just electric Pokemon into play with the electricity generators, trying to get a lot of those running. And I mean, similar to like Glaceon and stuff that's going on there, it's like it just doesn't. And so I've been trying to kind of build it as a little bit more of a like electric fluffy Miraidon toolbox, and it works most of the time. It's just the consistency on the card count is just a little bit off, and I feel like it will pop up and will actually work in some way, shape, or form. But I really do think that it would be fun for us to come into this and be like, all right, let's settle on one card, and then let's build a deck. Let's put up, what are we going to put into this? Like, let's talk about some draw engines. What are the benefits of this? What are not the benefits of this? Just because for, like, we're going to find people who are, you know, just as into this as really we are, where we love the Pokemon trading card game, where it's like, this is a lot of what we think about, a lot of what we talk about, a lot of what we're focusing in on. And then we've got some people who, like, don't know as much about it. And so I want to bring people in and show that it's like, you can play competitive meta decks if you want all day long. You can try to be the best player as much as you want. You can try to be the most off the wall, off meta player as much as you want. But like really, at the end of the day, why I was so excited for Alolan V-Star to win EUSC is because it was my favorite card that I've been trying to make work in all kinds of different decks for so long, trying to figure all of those counts out, took it to the regionals, and now to see it actually be successful, I'm like, yeah, like, I don't want to say any card can win, but there's so many cards out there that aren't on people's radars that need to be approached and need to be seen and need to be thought through, and like any card can be fun and played within the right context. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where a lot of the inspiration came from for that. So we'll talk a little bit about Glaceon V-Star, probably more so off camera, and maybe bring it on into something like this. And I've been talking about the Zeraora stuff for like months and months and months.
It's getting there. I see a path for both of them. I don't know if it's a winning path for either of them, but I see a path for both of them. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So expect that to be coming up. That's going to be just another segment that we kind of like dive on into. And then really kind of as we're going on into one of our next segments that I don't really have a name for it yet. And as I'm saying all of these segments, I also, like I said, I didn't prep Dalton with any of this. So I want to talk a little bit more about
Barstool Nerd, but in reverse.
It is. It's like our old podcast, but where he would prep everything, and now it's my turn to throw you into the ringer for things. But I know there's a bunch of different cards that are coming out. We talked a little bit about Paldea Evolved coming up with some different things that with just some different cards that we're excited for, some different things to look out for. I know that you mentioned that you were really excited for Big Cat. And I am really excited for Big Hammer. And so, but what else, is there anything just specifically from, as we've still got about, what is it, a month and a half before Paldea Evolved comes here, what can people get excited for as when we have a month and a half to learn a new format before and an even more kind of addition to cards and just a much newer format come into? What can people get excited for or how do people really hone in? How do you figure out what this format is? How do you approach bringing cards to locals? How do you approach actually thinking through what is good, and how do you approach what do you want to play?
Yeah. Well, what I do when I'm coming to this is I will look at what all the top ones, what everything is, Miraidon, Guardy, all of these, and just immediately throw them aside and say it's so that's what everyone's expecting, that's what everyone wants, that's what everyone likes. I'm not going to play those. People are going to think about it the same way I am or a different way than I am, and it's going to be I sit down, I turn over a card, and I'm facing the mirror, and it's that's not fun. I don't want to do that. If you do, awesome, more power to you. But I don't. So when I'm coming into it, I'll look at the set list for what is currently out, and I will say, all right, so these EXs are not seeing play. These are not good ones. How can I make this one relevant? Kind of like what you're talking about before. And so it's that's kind of where I'm at with Archamp, is that I like the idea of Koraidon. I think that Koraidon is really cool and really balanced. That it's mix that in with Reveroom, and you've got a really cool energy acceleration engine that you can do these things, and you can pull all the stuff and just cycle through your deck. That's fun, that's cool, that's different. So I would recommend doing the exact same thing, of looking at the cards, pull out the ones that people are already talking about, because people are already talking about them. If you want to do one of those, do what they're talking about. But then look at what's left and say, all right, so these cards people don't think are good, people don't think work as well. What's a cool synergy that exists in here? So it's Reveroom, Darkrai, that people talked about a lot before it started. No one's doing it.
Yep.
There's some cool synergy there. You can do that kind of thing. So I would say know what the meta is and then run in the opposite direction. You can always come back to the meta because the meta is the meta. I mean, we just sat there for the first little bit, talked about all the EUIC decks. They're all right now on PokeStats. You can go in there and you can see what those lists are. Let them run those. Now you find something new.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I also say know the meta, learn what it is, learn what those cards do. I mean, if you're trying to get into it, trying to bring something to locals, if you're just trying to have fun, legitimately Dalton and I, we show up and like to our like respective locals because we don't live in the same cities anymore. But like we show up to our respective locals and we're known as like those guys. we're known as the guys where you're not sure what you're really going to run into. You're not sure like what deck we're bringing that day, which is also like a large portion of the fun. But then also it's like he was saying, like you have to know what you're playing against to know like what you're going to build and what you're going to bring. Like for example, like the Archamp. When you're thinking through Archamp, like what decks are you afraid of? What decks are you excited to face in the matchups? Like what like when you're bringing it to actually play, how are you thinking through what cards need to go into it?
So Archamp, I think, is a good example. The one I would talk about instead, though, would be the deck that I'm currently like just playing all the time at all of my locals. Like the only deck I'm bringing, the only deck I'm playing currently is Regidrago V-Star.
Yep.
And so it's like the way that I built this deck is like it's a card that again people are like that's gonna be so cool, and then it wasn't, and so no one played it. And I'm like, but it could be so cool. Look at what I can do. And so like this deck is like the epitome of a toolbox deck. And so knowing which dragons to put in are based basically on the meta. So I'm running Flygon V in it because it swings for 320 into a Pokemon VMAX, and it one-shots Mew. It one-shots Miraidon, one-shots Regieleki. It one-shots these guys who are the standard big ones, and so it's like, it's got a built-in tech for them, but it's not the tech that people are expecting, so no one's really going to, like, try to stop your guy. They're not going to try to stop your, Flygon. It's running the, what's it called? What's his face? Duraludon, because it has the 220 and hits through stuff, which is also going through things like Vulpix. It's going through this kind of thing where it's stopping what is in the meta, it's looking at what the meta is, and it's shifting and it's adapting. There's the new, what's his face? Noivern EX that's coming, and it's like Noivern EX is going to be a really good tech into this deck because it hits what the meta is doing, but it's not doing it in the way that people are expecting you to hit in the meta. So it's like Miraidon's getting big, people like fighting is going to get big again. This has got no fighting Pokemon in it. When Psychic is big, like Dragon, that's what Dark, that's what's going to hit, that's what's going to stop. It's like the dragons can hit just as hard. So I think that it's smart knowing what's in the meta so that you can kind of build techs and counters, but this doesn't do it the way that you expect it to.
Right. And that's why whenever I go into this and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, like I was thinking about it, and I remember we had a conversation off camera, which is normally how all of the ideas for our podcast start. And it was crazy to me that there wasn't more like dark archetypes and or steel archetypes that were going in, because there's not like any real like big counters to them right now. Like maybe if you have a dark type that's like weak to fighting, then you have Urshifu going in. But like you've got some dark types, like I think Galarian Moltres is weak to grass, and so there's not really any grass types out there. And so like half of the grass types are only weak to grass types. Half of the dark types are only weak to grass, and so there's like in like going in with something that has dark and then also something that has steel, that's like 100%ing against a you're getting 100% against a like Guardy deck. So it's like if you're afraid of the Gardevoir matchup, that's kind of like what you need to go into. And then like there's also the Lugia matchups. Like, all right, what does Lugia hate? Lugia hates lightning, and then the Tyranitars, they hate grass. I think that the Stonejourner also hates grass. And so there's a typing matchup to go into it, which like makes me open the door of like, okay, what other Pokemon are out there? What other ideas could I have? What are the other things that I need to go and like think through? Because there could just be like a type matchup that kind of like helps me to auto win against like other different things, which is what like the Vulpix conversation really started off with. Was I was like, okay, going in with Vulpix, I force like some decks to have to play around me in a certain way. I'm like, all right, I've got Vulpix up, and I've got Big Parasol on, so it's like, all right, what are you gonna hit me with? And it's like, okay, I'm gonna hit you with this. I'm like, all right, well, I've got all of this other stuff on it, so I'm taking minus 70 damage. So I don't know what you're expecting to do next. I don't know what your plan is, but you are minus 70 damage now, my friend. So it is like, it's knowing what you're going up against and like having a plan for anything and everything that's kind of like showing up, but then also recognizing the fact of like you can't tech for everything underneath it. So that's like the really cool thing about like the Regidrago deck is that it is designed for you to tech for everything. It reminds me a little bit more of like the like a Zora box kind of build where you could have like 9 random attackers that are just kind of like tossed in, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, I need this for this matchup, here we go, just need to slap some energy on, we're good to go. And so unfortunately RIP twin energy, so it does make it a lot harder to play Zora box, but no, like going in and thinking through, I love how you brought up like with the Noivern, you're like, yeah, I can tech in the Noivern. Right now I have the Flygon, I can have the Duraludon, I can have the Gudra, and like with how you're saying it, like, and the nice part is Dragon, it doesn't have a weakness. So it's like you're never going to be like losing to anything essentially. Well, you're not going to have a losing matchup from just a type disadvantage going into it. And as long as they're still printing out dragon type cards, then it's always going to have something that could like open the door up for something new. So that's like a card.
Really nice it's got. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to say I've seen it a lot on the ladder, and like every time I see it, I think of you, and I'm like, it's coming. I can feel it. It just hasn't risen high enough yet, but it's coming.
Hey, mine is solid. I am win streak all over with this thing, but it's like it's got that HP of 280, so it's like it's not high. It's a magic number. It's a very easy number to hit for a lot of decks, but it's like it does favorably into the prize trade, and like we were saying, it's built around a singular attacker who is using these other attacks like Mew 3 did, and so it's no matter what happens, the V-Star is who's going to be up in the active spot.
Right.
And so you can choose what you're doing per turn, and you don't get stuck. And so it's like it is a tech toolbox deck, but it's not a tech toolbox deck. You're not going to get messed up or pushed behind on something. So it's like, I don't know. I'm hesitant to encourage people to play anti-meta, but it's like, because eventually you're playing anti-meta, if you just come up against a random rogue deck, you just lose.
Yeah.
Because you're built to tech and built to beat. But I think that playing rogue with a little bit more anti-meta tech into it is more fun than playing meta or playing true rogue.
Well, yeah, and that's why like we already said, I want to do let's build a deck. Let's see what's out there. Let's see what's rogue. Let's see what's different. Because just because it's different doesn't mean that it's like, just because it's different doesn't mean that it can't win. It just means that it has to have a different strategy that goes into it. It has to play different cards, has to pull from different things. Like, it just has different setups, has different consistencies, and can still win. Like, I mean, a sleeper card that I'm like really like excited about eventually is, you know, the what is it? It's the sun-soaked shell. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
The not Torterra, the Grottle.
Grottle.
Yeah. So like the Turtwig, Grottle, and Torterra line, which is so consistent if you actually just want to use it as like straight up attackers, but also just like so consistent in the fact of that it gets you, like, it just gets you grass Pokemon. Like, if you want that out there, you could almost have just like a grass Pokemon engine just by using them, slap in a Torterra on top of it so that you can actually attack things, and just use basic grass attack, like use different grass attackers to be able to use that in. Toss in a Cherim, you're able to accelerate some energy to anything that's not a like rule box, and you've got a working deck running right there. It's easy as that.
You want something else to go into it? I'm Superior V-Star. Swings and it moves the energy around. So you can pile it in with Cherim, and then you can put it where you want it with Superior.
Yeah. And so...
Wall swing it.
And that's why, like, when you're thinking about what you actually want to take to, like, a locals, when you're thinking about, like, how you want to build a deck and what you want to actually put into that deck, I always highly recommend start with whatever is your favorite. Start with whatever is your favorite Pokemon. If it's not legal right now, find a different favorite Pokemon, because that just means your favorite Pokemon's bad. And so
or not Charizard,
or it's not Charizard again, or it's not just a different variation of Charizard. And so but find a Pokemon that you really like, find either a typing that you really like, find a trainer card that you even really like. Some of them are like very highly and widely used, some of them are like really oddly specific in what they're actually used for. And so there's different things that you can use.
Over picking a Pokemon, I would say pick a type. Instead, it's like, I like grass types. I will always try to build a grass type deck. There was no good grass that came out in Scarlet and Violet. The first place I look, every time a set is announced, is what grass types come in this. That it's like, can I build a grass deck here? And that's why I'm so excited for Paldea Evolved, is that there are 2 grass decks coming in that set. And so it's like, just, I would find the type that works best for the way that you play, and then that's what you should run with. And then like off the supporters, like the Gardenias, like that's a very fun supporter. It goes into grass decks, and that's why I like it. Build a fire deck, have fun with the fire kind of thing. It's like, if you like
lose with the
type,
Arcanine.
yeah. If you like the water types, decide, do you like water or do you like ice? Because they build differently, even though they're both water, which is also really fun. So it's like, I don't know. I would pick the type you want to play, and then you can find something that works in it.
Yeah. And that's like, I definitely scroll down to 2 types. Well, I scroll down to Psychic type, because it used to be Fairy. And then I scroll down to the Fire types. And so those are definitely my absolute favorites. And like I said, this is another part of like, this was honestly the inspiration to Let's Build a Deck was Arcanine. It's because I'm like, everybody hates on Arcanine. Everybody says that it's bad, and everybody is correct. But I am going to make it work. I'm going to bring it to something to actually make it hopefully function. I really don't want it to be an Arceus Arcanine deck, even though unfortunately that's the easiest way to be able to accelerate energy consistently without having to set up like 90 different things on your first turn. But it is, I don't know, it is like thinking through, if you're new to Pokemon and you somehow stumbled upon this podcast, 1, welcome. 2, I'm glad that you made it this far, because we're like 45 minutes in. And so you listen to us talk about EUSC. But like, I want this to be a newcomer friendly, because that is like, to me, the biggest thing that like Pokemon has like been ever since that I actually started playing, is that everybody's been so newcomer friendly, and it's not very gatekeepy on like actually the game itself, because everybody's like, yeah, it's just, it's Pokemon cards, man, come on. But it has always just been so incredibly welcoming, and I want people to realize that like the game has its challenges, the game has its difficulties, and you can have so many intricacies to the actual game, but the door to get in is very simple and very easy, and we want to be the ones that help you to build out that process and think through those things, because that's our favorite thing to do is to bring people in, get them to come and play, and come up with just some dumb stuff.
Exactly. Well, it's like, also, that's why I think GLC is so much fun, is because you're taking cards that aren't good traditionally, and you're making them good. You can pick your favorite Pokemon, you can pick your favorite things, and so like, that's why standards, I'm excited about the way standard is shifting, is that it's not your favorite Pokemon so much, but it's like your favorite type, and you truly can go and build that type. Whereas at the end of the Sword and Shield block, it was, are you building a purple aggro deck, or are you building a colorless aggro deck? Because you're building an aggro deck, that's what you have to do in this format.
Yeah.
And now it's like, now you can do whatever, and it's a lot more fun.
Yeah. And so we welcome the new people, especially because, like, your wife, she's newer to the game. My wife, very new to the game still, barely plays GLC every now and then. But we want people to be able to come in, check this out, check out the channel as it kind of like goes more and grows more. I'll eventually we're gonna start streaming as well, maybe on YouTube, maybe on Twitch. We're still gonna figure out what that looks like and what that means. But as that kind of goes and progresses, we want to welcome into the community people who have people who just love Pokemon, 2, have a curiosity towards it of like, what does this mean? What does this actually mean past collecting? Because we're not collectors. We are you were more of a collector than I was. I am definitely more of a player than a collector. My cards get riffle shuffled, which makes so many people very upset. But I
riffle shuffle the dragons, and it is all full art supporters. I don't have any regular supporters here. It's all full art supporters, and so it's like, I riffle shuffle the. Where is she? I've got the new, what's her face, Seda in here. It's like, I'm riffle shuffling Seda, and the first time I did that, the guys at locals, I had like 2 or 3 of them like physically cringed, and I'm like, it's a piece of cardboard, man. It's good.
Yeah,
it's all right.
It's just shiny cardboard. It's just shiny cardboard, and it's fun. Like, that's what it's like. It's not here to be put on a pedestal. It's not here to be coveted. And also, this game is not. It's not hard to get into. It's also incredibly cheap to get into as well. And so we want this to be like a channel that actually welcomes and brings people on in kind of to that, and like hopefully along the way you guys kind of see the journey and evolution of what this comes from the the scuffed podcasts of the first episodes. We're trying to piece the things together, and I'm trying to figure out how to actually edit and consolidate it all into eventually, a blossoming, fun, like channel and group where we can get things started, get things going, kind of on from there. So
Build it up.
I know that I've kind of been talking over a lot of kind of like the vision of the channel, because I feel like that's going to be a lot of where we're going in as this is being kind of built and stuff kind of comes out, and eventually this will also start to kind of like go into more of, as we take on more of like the player roles as we go to hopefully more and more like regionals, hopefully eventually ICs, is this kind of like in our 10-year goal takes off on down the road. And so it will be a lot of that coming on up into the future. But like, what else are you excited for, as we're starting this Pokemon journey, as we're inviting our viewers and listeners to come on in on this Pokemon journey as well? What are you hoping for? What can they expect to see? What do you want to say to when we look back in all of these years, when we're the champions? What do we want to tell people?
We want to tell them that from the beginning that there was grass type superiority, and that it's been waiting since base set to be the best typing, the best deck, and now that it's won worlds, we told you all the way back here that grass type is going to win worlds in the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm. And so everybody who's been a Bulbasaur stan from the beginning, like, this is it. This is your time. It's your time to tell all the Charizard fans to get out of the way. We don't need 100 more Charizard cards. Just give me one Bulbasaur.
No, I don't know. I think that we want to say that this is honestly just a place to have fun. I mean, this entire game is just a place to have fun, and I think that there are some people who take it very seriously, and I respect that because they're taking it very seriously. But it's like it's cardboard and it's Pokemon, and I remember trading Pokemon cards at recess and having fun and playing the game wrong because I was 7. It's like, that's what I want it to feel like now. And so doing grass type and playing really bad types into a really good format, like, that's fun. And being successful in that, it just feels so much better. So it's like, after one of us or both of us win worlds here in the next little bit, then it was just fun. It was dumb. Think about all the memes you could have along the way.
It was the memes you made along the way. But yeah, well, that's really most of what I wanted to hit on. Do you have any other last topics or questions or like things to kind of like go into before we close out the podcast?
No, I think that we hit almost everything I want to do. Last time I did tell you about the deck I was most excited about. I gave you the first card, which was the Sprigatito. So this time I'm going to give you the next card. Eventually, after 60, then you're going to see all 60 of my cards. The next card I want to show you that is in this deck, right here. You'll never see it coming. It's a rare candy. There you go.
There you go.
I'll leave you with that.
Boom. Sprigatito, rare candy. What's it? I can't wait to see what it evolves into.
I know, right? 2 out of 60. Who knows what's going to happen next?
I hope that the next card is just another Sprigatito. It's just...
Or a grass energy. It could be a grass energy too. But there's so many options.
There you go. Well, as I said, as you get to see Dalton play Let's Build a Deck in 60 episodes of the podcast, by that point, Paldea Evolve will already 100% be out. But you can see it all come together.
I will have theoretically played this at a tournament, and you could just go back through and look at my deck list there. But no, we can keep revealing one by one until you've seen all 60.
One card. Cool. Well, as we close this out, Dalton, where can everybody expect to find us?
You can find us on the interwebs. We are on Facebook in a minute. I don't remember if we're on Facebook yet, but we're going to be on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. All of those places. We are Draw for Turn. We are also on YouTube as Draw for Turn, and we are on podcasting places as Draw for Turn. So it's like we are just like everywhere. We are still making sure all of our stuff is up and running and good to go. But if you do like the content you're seeing here, the content that you are hearing here, keep tuning back in, and as more of our socials go live, as more of our places to connect go live, we will let you know where they are and how to get in touch with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the fun part. It's the journey. It's the fun along the way. Cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning on in, and we will see you all next time.